upcoming forensic fields like drone forensics. We are also coming up with sessions like multimedia forensics, voice forensics, and even accidental crime scenes will be taken care of. So all these sessions are specially designed so that all the allied fields of forensic science are being met. We Today's session deals with the dental identifiers, and today, our eminent guest, Mr. Emilio or Dr. Emilio, will be taking care of forensic odontology and dental identifiers. But due to some technical issues, he'll be joining us in 4 or 5 minutes. The next session, which we have planned, is related to psychological aspects. Uh, uh, Psychological aspect. His name is Mr. The reason of selecting the topic for the forensic odontology is Gujarat Forensic Sciences University, which is one of the first and the foremost university in forensic science, runs a course called MSc Forensic Science, MSc Forensic Odontology, which is a 2 year full time course where different aspects of odontology, biometric, and DVI, disaster victim identification, can help us to identify the victims in case of DVI and accidental firings. So in that cases, we use dental remains to identify the individuals. So especially we have called in Dr. Emilio, and he'll be joining us in few minutes. He
Pooja, can I say something?
Yes, sir, please.
Sure, sir, please, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. So before the actual talk starts, we would like to discuss something on forensic odontology. So this, in many areas, this is also known as forensic dentistry because people don't understand what is this odontology. So it is also known as dentistry. So you basically you investigate crime applying your knowledge of dentistry. And when you apply your knowledge of dentistry, it becomes forensic dentistry. Now here there are two, three aspects. How can you resolve or solve crime based on dental structure, etc. So dentistry plays a very important role in identification of an individual, especially in case where the dead body is totally decomposed, only a skeleton is available, and then you get a bone structure, and then from that bone structure, mandible, etc., you try to identify the person. Then, in some cases, a piece of tooth is made available from the scene of offense, and the person is missing. So, take out the pulp from the tooth, do DNA analysis. You can also do some kind of aging. Even sex determination is also slowly become possible. So this is how you try to get the sex, you try to get the age, you try to get the identity of a person based on the dental structure. So this is a very important area, and because you see many a times your hand, whatever is made available or whatever is left behind by the perpetrator of crime is the only thing which you can look for, analyze, collect, analyze, and then give an opinion. I mean, many a times what happens, a small piece of a tooth is available at the scene of it. Nothing is available other than this. In that case, this becomes a crucial evidence for you to link this fellow with the crime scene and ultimately identify him or her. So this is how the importance of forensic odontology is increasing. And this is the only university in this country, and there are very, very few universities in the world who are in the area of forensic odontology, who run this kind of courses. So looking to its importance in the investigation of crime, we took a decision, and we have been doing it for many, many years. 4 or 5 batches have come out, and it is also getting a good response. We also have an area called humanitarian forensics. So humanitarian forensics, in fact, we have established a global center of humanitarian forensics. There you apply the knowledge of forensics for the welfare of human beings. And this name we are going humanitarian forensics. In humanitarian forensics, we have a big role of forensic odontologists, because humanitarian forensic mainly deals with disaster victim identification, DVI. So this DVI, we use and apply the knowledge of forensic odontologists. So this is a joint thing. Combinedly, we go for humanitarian forensics. We have forensic odontology. We also have forensic nursing, and then you couple with forensic medicine and even forensic biotechnology. So when these 4 areas are clubbed together, and of course fingerprinting, routine fingerprints. So fingerprint expert who will take your thumb impression or fingerprint impression, etc. So these are 4 or 5 areas which are very, very crucial and important in case of disaster victim identification. And that is the major part or major portion of humanitarian forensics. So humanitarian forensics is where you are not able to identify the dead bodies after disaster, and then you apply all your technologies of forensic odontology, forensic medicine, fingerprint, DNA, etc., and try to identify people, and then you can hand over the bodies back to their relatives. This is the purpose. So I just a brief. I don't want to be interfering in the talk. So please
No, sir.
continue,
Thank you
Pooja.
so much.
Huh?
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your brief introduction, sir. I couldn't have done this.
No, no.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, Sanjay sir. We'll be starting the session in few minutes. Our eminent speaker has some technical issues, so he'll be joining us in 5 minutes. Please bear with us and please be online. Thank you.
Good versus evil, criminal versus law, terror versus peace. There is someone playing a major role for the establishment of justice and peace. That is science, forensic science. The horizons of this science are expanding to embark futuristic innovation and development in crime investigation and detection. The government of Gujarat has established a unique university of specialized education with a focus to prepare ready-to-serve industry professionals in the field of forensic science. World's first and only forensic science university. That is Gujarat Forensic Sciences University, popularly known as GFSU, was conceptualized and foundation stone laid by the visionary Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi.
गुजरात इस बात के लिए गर्व कर सकता है कि पिछले 10 साल के भीतर भीतर गुजरात ने ग्लोबल लेवल के इंस्टीट्यूशन देश को दिए। आज भी दुनिया में कहीं पर भी फॉरेंसिक साइंस यूनिवर्सिटी नहीं है, दुनिया में कहीं नहीं है। गुजरात अकेला है जिसकी अपनी फॉरेंसिक साइंस यूनिवर्सिटी है, दुनिया की एकमात्र यूनिवर्सिटी।
Gujarat Forensic Sciences University, established by the government of Gujarat under the flagship of Home Department, is a highly specialized higher education institution across the world, which is the only establishment of its kind dedicated to forensic and investigative sciences. Located at Gandhinagar, the capital city of the state of vibrant Gujarat, it has established 3 major academic institutes, namely Institute of Forensic Science, Institute of Behavioral Science, and Institute of Research and Development. Collectively, the university offers more than 35 postgraduate and doctorate level academic programs. Besides education and research, the university is also engaged in imparting training to officers of law enforcement agencies of the world, like Bangladesh, Nepal, Maldives, Myanmar, Rwanda, Mozambique, Ethiopia, and others.
Considering the acute shortage of the experts who could investigate and prevent crimes, not only in India, but throughout the world, the then Chief Minister and the present Honorable Prime Minister of India, Sri Narendra Modi ji, took an exemplary initiative in establishing this unique world-class university, the first university of its kind in the world.
The university runs in parallel association with the Directorate of Forensic Science, DFS Gujarat State, to provide hands-on training. The GFSU's ultra-modern campus is spread across an area of 50,000 square meters, and new development is taking place at adjoining 74,000 square meters area. GFSU offers state-of-the-art infrastructure facilities like classrooms equipped with projectors, laboratories with latest equipments and instruments, administrative wing, computer lab, multiple R&D laboratories, and much more. The GFSU campus is Wi-Fi enabled, centrally air-conditioned, and equipped with highly intelligent security systems. This university has established Asia's first and only cyber defense center for education, training and research in the areas of combating cyber war and cyber security. International Center for Humanitarian Forensics, also known as ICHF, is envisioned to be the first global center of excellence in humanitarian forensics that will undertake teaching, research and services on various aspects of humanitarian forensic actions towards addressing the needs of vulnerable population in the event of disaster or emergency. This eco-friendly and green campus has international class hostels and guest house facilities to provide comfortable accommodation to students and guests. An amphitheater, huge playground for multiple sports, cafeteria, large auditorium with 560 seating capacity, learning resource center with internet facilities, together with a voluminous collection of electronic and printed books, journals, paper reviews and articles add into the list. Among three major academic institutes, the Institute of Forensic Sciences was established with an aim to provide a center for academic excellence and ultra-modern practical training in the area of forensic and its subsidiary sciences. GFSU's ultra-modern ballistics research and testing range has got capabilities of analyzing bulletproof materials like jackets, glass plates, metallic plates, helmets, tires and even armored vehicles. This facility is only of its kind in Asia. The Institute of Behavioral Science endeavors to impart education and research in clinical and forensic psychological sciences, and also to provide better caliber in diagnostics, psycho-legal consultations, and treatment and rehabilitation to clients. Institute of Research and Development is a dedicated center to the discovery, development and application of forensic science in a wide range of academic and professional areas to create excellent quality of research work. Apart from its state-of-the-art research facilities at GFSU and DFS, the university has collaborated with many national and international organizations and laboratories spread across India, USA, Canada, France, UK, Australia, Malaysia, Uganda, Israel, Turkey, Egypt.
Finally, sir, thank you so much.
Sorry for
Yeah.
this inconvenience.
No,
My
sir, thank
laptop
you.
is doing an automatic update. Let me try to summarize. I will connect with the other laptop as soon as it finishes the
No problem, sir. We'll
update.
start the session. We'll
we
start the
can start.
session.
Yes.
Yes.
Uh,
Rehan, please.
So-
First of all, I would like to thank the university, the Gujarat, for inviting me. I've been visiting the Forensic Science University faculty, I've seen the facilities and how the university is investing a lot of resources in the field. I'm very happy to join this.
Yes,
Hello,
sir.
Can you please,
Sir, we have amongst us our Director General also today, Dr. J.
I would
N.
like
Vyas,
to,
Honorable Director General of Gujarat Forensic Sciences University. He has taken out his precious time to join with us, and he also helped us to maintain this time lapse so that everyone can be given a brief introduction what the session will be all about. Sir, please. Sir, he's there. Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon. Good afternoon, doctor. Welcome to you. Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you. Thank you so much. Please continue. I'll be attending your session. Thank you. Oh, I'm very honored. Thank you. Sorry for the delay.
So,
and
let me give the
my
introduction
presentation-
first. Emilio, Professor
Yes.
Emilio, let me give the introduction first so that participants can know more about you before we
Please.
start the session. Yeah.
Rehan can start.
Yeah, so hello everyone, and I welcome all the participants to Gujarat Forensic Sciences University webinar series. I would personally like to welcome Professor Emilio. I would like to also welcome our Honorable Director General, Dr. J. M. Vyas, sir. We are highly obliged to work under his guidance. He is truly a role model to many forensic investigators across the world. I thank him for sparing his valuable time and joining us for the webinar. There is a saying in the field of forensic science, where all the physical evidences fail, forensic odontology prevails. Forensic odontology speaks for the dead to protect the living. So to discuss more about the importance of forensic odontology and the challenges in human identification and dental identifier, today we have with us pioneer in the field of forensic odontology, Professor Emilio Nuzzolisi, forensic odontologist, researcher and professor in legal medicine at University of Turin, Italy. He is head of Human Identification Laboratory at Medico-Legal Institute of Turin. He is president and founder of the Civil Protection Association Dental Team Europe. He is also president and co-founder of Forensic Odontology for Human Rights. So before I hand over the mic to Professor Emilio, I would request everyone to keep their mic and camera off so that we can have smooth experience. With that, I hand over the mic to Professor Emilio. We are really looking forward to the session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the presentation. Sorry again for the delay. I will start my presentation as soon as my laptop finishes the automatic update which caused this delay. Let me introduce the subject of today. As you know, I am a forensic odontologist, and I am particularly interested in the promotion of our discipline, which is not a self-promotion, which is not a promotion of forensic odontology as it is, but it is a promotion of the importance of applying dental identifiers, primary and secondary dental identifiers, within the human identification process. In the presentation I will show you in a few minutes, I will show you some cases, but from the point of view of the importance of involving forensic odontologists and collecting dental evidence and dental data from human remains. I am aware that this is a webinar, and of course this lecture is also going live. So for this reason, I have precisely cropped most of the human remains images for ethical reasons, because even if this presentation is specifically tailored for experts in forensics, of course, being on social media, this can be seen also by other people, by families, by non-experts. And as president of the Association Forensic Odontology for Human Rights, we are particularly keen in the respects of the human rights of the dead and of the human remains, also from this point of view. For this reason, you will see some images of human remains which have been cropped for the didactic purpose of this webinar. Of course, if you attend one of our postgraduate courses in University of Turin and you are physically present, of course, this changes dramatically the quantity of images and of human remains collections that you will be able to work on, because in my University of Turin, we are running a postgraduate course in forensic odontology, which is meant to be particularly professional and to offer training and hands-on on human remains collections and on skeletons, generally speaking. Of course, this is completely different when we run a webinar, when this conference, this lecture is going live on YouTube and Facebook, and we have to particularly be precautious on where we share our images. For this reason, I ask you not to do any pictures or screenshots of what I will show, although I have already reduced the amount of human remains images for what I have already said. The presentation is divided into 4 basic questions. First of all, what is a human identification process? How do we perform a human identification process? What are dental identifiers? And the third question is why we need to perform a human identification. And finally, I will close the conference by introducing the Association Forensic Odontology for Human Rights, because this is what is basically meant on. I will switch off my mobile because finally my laptop has turned on. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Perfect. My laptop is back, and I will run straight away my presentation without any further delay. Okay.
Mr. Jonathan, please keep your cameras off, please.
Can you see this slide?
No.
Or you
no,
don't?
Sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, so we have to let me switch off this. Let me go back here.
Present. Okay. You should see it now, right?
Yes, sir. It's, yeah.
Okay, perfect. I was saying, as I was saying, this presentation is related to human identification and it's reserved to experts in forensics. So please don't do any screenshots of the human remains that I will present in this presentation, which are there strictly for the didactic purpose of this lecture. Let's go to what I was saying. 4 basic questions, which are the idea behind this short lecture. What is the process of human identification? What are the dental identifiers, secondary and primary identifiers? Why do we need to identify human remains? And then a brief introduction of what is Humanitarian Forensic Odontology and the Association Forensic Odontology for Human Rights. So the human identification process is divided into the need for identifying human remains coming from a disaster, from a mass disaster, or from a single autopsy, from a single collection of human remains. So if we work on a DVI scenario, we first of all have to collect and search and collect and rescue the injured, but also we have to collect and rescue the human remains of the dead. So we have the scene examination. Depending on the type of the incident, we may ask as odontologists to work on the site to help in the collection. What is most important for us as odontologists and forensic experts is the post-mortem of PM data collection, which is the process where you collect identifying data from the human remains. This respect the Interpol guidelines, which divides the primary identifiers into fingerprints, dental, and DNA. There is also the opportunity of performing a human identification using a visual identification. The visual identification may be accepted in some circumstances and may be considered an adjunct resource as together with other circumstantial evidence. But as we all know, the visual identification cannot be considered so accurate to be accepted as a scientific method. So that's why it is important not to rely on visual identification. Once we have collected the post-mortem identifying data, being dental, fingerprints, and DNA, then we have to perform the comparison of this information with the what we call antemortem data, which is the identifying data, medical and dental data, which can be collected by the families, by the next of kin, who are interviewed by police and law enforcement agents in order to collect all those information that can be used for the third phase of the human identification process, which is what is called reconciliation. Reconciliation is the comparison of the data collected from the human remains and the data collected from the families and the next of kin in order to verify compatibility with the biological profiles, incompatible profiles, and compatible profiles, which are eventually identifying if there is the match of identifying data. Why we cannot rely on visual identification? For a very simple reason. It is not accurate. It is not accurate, and it is interesting to show to you this is what the results of faces, which are tremendously live. They seem to be perfectly living individuals. But all these faces and many more are actually created by a computer. This is faces created by artificial intelligence. These faces you see here belong to people that do not exist. All these faces are fake faces produced by the artificial intelligence. If you link on the website, if you go on this website, on the bottom of the slide, every time you refresh, you will see a face of a person. But that face belongs to a person that actually never and doesn't exist. Now, just to anticipate some of the work we are doing at University of Turin in the Medical Legal Institute, we are working on artificial intelligence. We are using machine learning and other tools like photogrammetry and forensic blockchain for the purpose of human identification and to enhance age estimation and determination. So we rely on artificial intelligence, we can rely on machine learning, but we need to use these tools, these digital tools incorporated in protocols and researches that we as a university are working on. Back to the identification process of human remains. I was telling you we have primary identifiers, but we also have secondary identifiers. And we will return to the secondary identifiers when we go to the dental aspects. The dental area of the Interpol forms is fundamentally shown in this, which is one of the forms that you can download from the Interpol website. This is the one dedicated to the dental data collection, and this is particularly useful not only in disaster scenarios, but also in single autopsy of missing and unidentified persons, because as you can see here, the teeth and the dental formula of the 32 teeth is presented in what is called odontogram, which is composed of the visual characteristics of teeth. You can see 32 squares, and these squares can be colored and allowing the forensic odontologists of any country to understand the dental features and the dental characteristics that we have collected in our dental autopsy. The Interpol forms have the great advantage of allowing a worldwide circulation of post-mortem dental information independently from the nationality, independently from the language that you are using, because the Interpol forms are universally accepted, are universally used by DVI teams and forensic odontologists involved in DVI process. And the odontogram is what is particularly important when we have to circulate post-mortem data of unidentified human remains of unknown nationality. I live in Italy, as you know, and Italy is one of those countries where we have a lot of tourists during the year, and the amount of reported missing person to police in Italy, more than 50% of these reported missing people are from foreigner countries. This means that we have the chance to collect human remains in Italy, which are not Italians, which do not belong to Italian citizens. And for this reason, it would be useless for us to report only in Italian what we have collected during a dental autopsy, because it may end up that the person we need to identify is not Italian, and we may need to circulate the post-mortem sheet to other law enforcement agencies, to other odontologists of other countries. And for this reason, we need to use a universal code, universal forms, like the forms proposed and recommended by Interpol. Now, the dental identifiers. Why so important the dental identifiers within the human identification process? You can see here on the left a fragment of a mandible, of a burnt mandible, which have been used to identify a person. I performed periapical X-ray of that fragment, and you can see that this inferior molar has an endodontic treatment, and you can see that the second premolar is absent because it has been missing post-mortem, but is present within the dental formula. So out of this small fragment, if we can retrieve and collect so many identifying features and dental information that will be used in the comparison with the AM data. So dental materials, dentition, dental treatments have the characteristic of being tremendously resistant to chemicals, to heat, to time. And for these reasons, all these identifying features can be used for the human identification process. We can perform human identification process not only using treated teeth, we can also use crown or root anatomical features, even of perfectly sound teeth. Teeth are also an extraordinary source of DNA, especially when human remains are skeletonized or carbonized, and forensic genetists can find a very good DNA within inside the tooth, in the pulp of the tooth. We can do, as I will show you, also some very useful analysis of the enamel, which allows to achieve an idea of the geographical origin of the human remains. And also we can do an analysis of the dental material that we find on our human remains. Dental materials have characteristic formula of compositions. We have composition of alloys, we have compositions of composites, and all these dental materials can give an idea of the geographical origin of the unidentified human remains. Also, we can use other anatomical features like the front sinus, the maxillary sinus shape. Here, particularly relevant in the dental autopsy is the dental radiology. I'm sure that all odontologists who are connected or are listening to this presentation are full aware that we use portable X-ray device. This is one of the old model of the portable device which I have. It's a Nomad. It's a device that was first used during the tsunami in 2004, 5, and 6 as a prototype. And you can see that this makes the difference in the dental autopsy, because this device connected and linked with a digital sensor can allow odontologists to perform dental X-rays of jaws and teeth without going away from the human remain, from the cadaver. I am holding this portable device, and I'm also holding the X-ray sensor, allowing to the collection of dental X-rays of teeth. And this is what you obtain. This is the model I was telling you. The new model, which has been also produced by other companies, is lighter and smaller, but this disc, which is on the head of the portable device, is what is particularly useful to protect the operator from the back X-rays, which are still there, but are much lower than the annual dose that we have to be exposed. Here on the portable laptop, you see the X-ray of the digital X-ray that we can obtain real time using a digital sensor, and this allows us so many important collection of information, not only of the dental characteristics of crown, roots, the presence of pathologies, periapical pathologies. We can also have information from X-rays of certain teeth, which can be used to assess the age of the unidentified human remains, which is part of the biological profile. Again, we protect the X-ray because we want to protect from any contamination, especially now that we may ask to perform a dental autopsy of unidentified human remains, which should be considered potentially infectious as we are facing the COVID-19 pandemic. Here, one of the pictures of human remains recovered from the sea. You can see that the crowns and teeth are particularly resistant to all attack of fauna from the sea, from the water. And of course, this is particularly important to allow us to write our post-mortem dental report. In summarizing what we can obtain doing a complete dental autopsy, inclusive of dental radiology, is what I decided to define as dental biography, which is the biological profile from a dental point of view of the unidentified human remain. The dental biography is not only related to what we find in terms of dentistry. The dental biography is related to geographical origin, social economical habits, if the person was a drinker, smokers. We can obtain some information about the habits and lifestyle of the human remains, and this allows to create a genetic profile of the unidentified human remains, which will be used when searching for the compatible unidentified persons. Are you following me?
Yes, sir.
I'm going a little bit faster because I need to reduce the time of my presentation because of my delay. Here, as a courtesy of the UK DVI team and one of the exercise that was performed in London. Here you can see a temporary morgue of this exercise where I am performing a dental autopsy, and this is what you usually face when where we are involved in a scenario where we need to perform multiple dental autopsies because there are so many victims out of a mass disasters. Ideally, you can see here we are three odontologists. Ideally, we have three odontologists. One is performing the inspection in the jaws and teeth and is collecting the information. The other colleague is checking that I am doing the right description of what I see and is also assisting with the light. The third odontologist, which could be he could be also a dental hygienist eventually, or a dental assistant. We can perform. The third person is actually writing what we are collecting, because we need to what we are doing. We are using gloves. We are exploring and inspecting the teeth, so we are dirty. We cannot write anything, of course, and for this reason the third odontologist here is the one who is collecting the information that we are collecting, and we are dictating to him. He is using paper, but I will show you that we can also use a software. Here is the equipment of the UK DVI team, Odontology team, which has, of course, several nomads. And here is the software of which is used together with the papers, which replicate the Interpol forms with the software called Plus Data. This exercise was organized and I was invited to join by Inspector Our Way, who is in charge of the UK DVI team in UK. Here you can see the exact replica of what is the paper that we use in terms of Interpol forms, and you can see how interesting and how useful is the presence of a graphic odontogram, which allows any odontologist worldwide to understand right away, straight away, what is the characteristics of dental features, where is the restoration, and where exactly is positioned a crown or where a tooth is missing. And on the software side, we have also a software, as I said, Plus Data, which replicates the Interpol forms and allows also to transmit and store this information in a database, in a net. Here is the list of what is a dental autopsy. A dental autopsy is, of course, the examination of jaws and teeth. We need to take oral photographs. We may need to take impressions, which could be taken by impression materials, but it can be. We can also use the new optic impression, where we are working on in our University of Turin. Fundamentally is the collection of radiographs of teeth and jaws, even on those areas where no teeth are present, because I don't have the time today, but in future occasions, if we have the chance to meet in other conferences or lectures, we'll be happy to show you a case where we have identified a person who was totally edentulous, and it was identified thanks to the dental autopsy together with a colleague, Dr. Mario Torreggianti. We also can take specimen of teeth, of dental materials, and we need to also, sometimes we may be asked to recompose fragments of jaws and teeth in order to have the anatomical area of the inferior part of the face and have and perform X-rays. But this is what we perform on the autopsy room. But of course, we can work also in the antemortem collection, not because we are searching for the antemortem data, which is a collection which is given to the law enforcement and police agencies, but we can help the officers, the police officers, to look specifically for certain information, and we are fundamental in the translation of the antemortem data. Let's imagine we have a DVI scenarios with multiple nationalities, with multiple national casualties. So we are involved in the DVI team. We are receiving AM data from other countries in other languages. We are receiving copies of the dental forms written by dentists of other nationalities, English, French, German, Indonesian, whatever. And we need to translate this antemortem information in unique information that could be can be written in the Interpol forms. And of course, odontologists who are involved in human identification and specifically in DVI, they need to be aware of the codes of some specific languages, because we may have to work on the translation of antemortem data coming from countries of different nationalities from ours. So in Italy, for example, I could receive antemortem data from families of other countries, and of course we need to translate this. And as dentists, as clinical dentists, we also have the clinical experience to translate this information into valuable forensic postmortem dental information. From the forensic point of view, being after collecting the postmortem data in the autopsy room, we have to do a forensic evaluation. So we can sometimes reassemble jaws and teeth, as I was saying. Fundamentally, one of the aspects of the biological profile is to assess an age estimation, which is so important when we need to search for compatible missing persons that could help us in the identification of what we are working on. And the age, specifically age, is one of the most important data that we need to collect in order to narrow the search of possible compatible candidates. Then we perform a biological profile like sex, ancestry, social status, habits, even oral hygiene habits can be useful when we need to search for possible missing persons that could be compatible with the human remains we are performing the post-mortem collection. And another characteristic we may be asked to work and to do is the fascial reconstruction. Some odontologists have learned these techniques doing a 2D or 3D fascial approximation, using a software, of using a clay as it used to be done in the past. We may be able to do this directly, or we may work together with forensic anthropologists to perform this. Important issue I want to highlight, this is something I highlight now 10 years now, is the difference between a dental autopsy and a dental examination. Because the dental examination can be performed also by forensic pathologists. Fundamentally is the list of the teeth which are present, missed or treated, with dentistry, with dental treatments, but the dental autopsy is something much wider than the simple dental examination. This is the reason why dental odontologists, forensic odontologists, sorry, should always be involved when there is the need for an identification autopsy, because there is a huge difference between a judicial autopsy and an identification autopsy. The judicial autopsy is the autopsy where the judge, the magistrate, is asking the medical examiner or the forensic pathologist to assess the time and the cause of death, which is basically what they need to understand in order to establish if there are any penal, any criminal reasons behind the death. When we perform an identification autopsy, the goal is totally different. The goal is to achieve an identity, a name of the human remains. And for this reason, all identifying features should be collected, specifically the dental, because the dental the information allow us to achieve a generic profile which narrows the search for possible candidates. Just a case with the Professor Di Vella, who is the chief of our medical legal section here at the University of Turin. I was involved in this case because he was appointed by the court of Matera in the south of Italy, because there were 286 human remains fragments collected under the soil. I was involved in trying to put together these fragments which belonged to the skull. Teeth were loose, fragments of jaws and mandibles, and this to show you all out of those fragments, I put together the teeth. I put back the teeth in their own values, and I achieved the reconstruction of jaws, teeth, and mandibles. And I performed also a panoramic X-ray of these three people that were found in this recovery site. Quickly list of what is a dental autopsy. A dental autopsy is also the observation of teeth. We use a specific UV light, which is fundamental in order to understand the presence of composite. As I can show you here, as I show you here, when we perform our dental autopsy of human remains, sometimes these human remains are dirty, and sometimes we are not able to understand if that is a composite reconstruction or not. All dentists who are listening to my presentation right now are aware that we use adhesive dentistry, that we use we do extremely conservative preparations of teeth, and for this reason we may have composite restorations in several parts of the crowns, and sometimes we may miss these restorations if we don't use this UV light to understand. Then there is the spectrophotometry of dental materials. These pictures are courtesy of Dr. Mary and Peter Bush from the Forensic Odontology Laboratory at Buffalo University, which I thank them always for having me allowed to attend their laboratories. This is a small device, portable device that can be used to establish the composition of materials. This is the spectrum you have. You have the exact composition of the materials, and the composition of the materials is used to establish the brand, the company of that material. Out of some of the research of Dr. Peter Bush, also the magnification of certain composites companies, compositions, Tetric, Filtec, Durafil, they all have a different matrix because these composites have a patented formula, and each of them has a different composition. If you enlarge the fragment of the specimen that you have collected from the unidentified human remain, you can have an idea of what this composite is and what is the brand of this composite. Here you see the result, the spectrum of the energy dispersive X-ray spectrum of the alloy. You can see gold, silver, and other elements, which can be compared with the composition of the alloy eventually retrieved from the unidentified human remains. And once we establish the brand of the resin composite or of the alloy which has been used for the dental prosthetics, for example, we can have other interesting, useful information which can be used for the identification process. Here, for example, the unknown material of during an autopsy I performed in Sicily in 2009 was compared with the matrix of a known brand, and you can see that the unknown material using this comparison of the matrix is established to be tetric ceram, which is one of the composite used. Other interesting analysis of enamel is the analysis of the strontium ratio, which is a mineral element which can be found in hard tissues, which means teeth and bones. But the interesting aspect from the identification point of view is that the strontium which is present on bones is of course influenced by the strontium which is present in the environment. So if we recover human remains from the soil or from the sea, we cannot use the bones to establish the strontium ratio, because that is being influenced by the strontium present in the area of recovery. On the other hand, the strontium present in the enamel is not influenced by the sea or the soil, because it has been already crystallographically incorporated in the enamel. And once we have the exact ratio, we can compare that ratio with the geological map of strontium and obtain an idea, not the exact geographical origin, but obtain an idea of the geographical origin of the human remain, because the strontium present in the bones and enamel is incorporated in bones in the first 3 years of age. So this means that we have an idea of the geographical origin of the human remains, which is another important puzzle of the biological profile we use for the identification. Now, I was telling you, one of the aspects of this presentation was also the emphasis on dental identifiers. We also have secondary dental identifiers. This is what we have been working also as university. Last year, we have launched an informative campaign called Identify Me, which was addressed to families and to law enforcement, because there are so many secondary dental data that could still be used for the identification. And this means that in order to collect ante-mortem dental data, we don't need to rely only on dental forms coming from dental clinics or dental technician laboratories or dental offices. We can also use pictures. We can use the characteristics of some features which are in the mouth, as I've shown you all these piercing. We can also use selfie images showing front teeth. We have been, and also we can use mouth guards, sports mouth guards, bleaching trays, dental models, orthodontics retainers, and so many other aspects of that belong to the mouth that can be used for identifying persons. Even an app, we developed an app some years ago, which is called Selfie Forensic Id, which is a free app you can download, where the goal of the app is simply to take selfie pictures of the front teeth, and these selfie pictures will have your name, your surname, and your nationality. And eventually, this will be available as an image in the engines, in the search of a name and surname. So why do we need to identify human remains? Do I still have time?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. So why do we need to identify human remains? We are all aware that there are so many reasons behind. There are criminal, marriage, monetary, burial, social, closure. There are so many reasons for the identification of human remains. We have reasons related to criminal investigations. We have reasons behind all the interest, the monetary interest of the dead person, because the dead person who is not identified is missing, is not dead. And depending on the jurisdictions, if you don't have a death certificate, you cannot unblock all the financial aspects of the dead person. This means that the wife or the husband of a missing person cannot remarriage, because the husband or the wife is missing and is not dead. If you have, for example, insurance premium and you cannot collect any reward because the person is not dead, is missing, and so many other aspects, in particularly the social and the religious and the human rights aspect. The religious aspects is easy to understand. If we recover human remains of unknown nationality and unidentified, we don't know. We don't know the identity, we don't know the religion, belief of this person, so we cannot perform a proper religious ceremony because we don't know who the person is. And if we consider that there is the chance that this person could be foreigner, we need to understand and to bring back that name and that identity in order to process this person, respecting his own belief, allowing the family to have the closure of the mourning of during a funeral. But for example, this is what happened in situations where you have like in the tsunami in 2004, where you have 32 different nationalities involved. You cannot understand the identity of these people because you cannot do any visual identification. You need to perform scientifically and technically a correct, proper identification, also using dental tools. Particularly in this scenario, dental means where we're capable of achieving a positive identification on an average of 80% alone or combined with the secondary identifiers. Another issues related to identification is the migrants. The migrant list, the number of unidentified migrants which are crossing the Mediterranean Sea to come to Europe are more than 34,000, and using this Guardian's article of this specific moment, these specific articles on migratory flows, you can see here that each dot you see here, each of these 34,371 dots correspond to a dead person. To a dead person without an identity. Just over 1,000 of these over 34,000 migrants have been identified. Just over 1,000 have a name, just over 1,000 have a name out of 34,361. And this is an issue because this is the hot area where you can see people are trying to achieve Italy and the European border and by boat. And of course, I've been experiencing some of these situations where you need to perform a post-mortem autopsy on dead migrants. And the number of unidentified persons raises ethical and human rights issues. This is why since 2007, since 2012, during the International Congress on Dental Law and Ethics in Leuven, there is this International Dental Ethics and Law Society, which usually organize a congress, an international congress every 3 years. This year's today, this year, 2020, it was meant to be organized in Leuven in September, but it was postponed for the COVID-19 pandemic outbreak. Anyway, in 2012, I addressed an important aspect which was never addressed before, which is the need to identify people for the respect of human rights. And this is the reason why, by attending the Interpol annual meeting in Lyon, I addressed this issue during our business meeting, because the Interpol DVI committee is composed of several sub-working groups of experts and technicians, and there is one specifically dedicated to forensic odontology, which involves several experts from several countries, including Italy. And in 2015, I raised this small presentation. This is the year 2015. I addressed and stressed the importance of identifying human remains, as it is a human rights issue. This is the reason why on the 5th of May 2015, during this business meeting in Lyon, we created a group called Forensic Odontology for Human Rights, which FOD for HR, which became an association last year in 2019 with the new acronym AFOR, which stands for Association Forensic Odontology for Human Rights, where I was elected president until next year. This is our logo, and this is what basically this association is keen on. The association is keen on promoting what we call humanitarian forensic odontology. The Association Forensic Odontology for Human Rights is a non-profit association of volunteers. We are now over almost 100 members from over 25 countries. And we have been promoting humanitarian forensic odontology, which is pro bono services where dental evidence is involved, but there are no odontologists appointed. So the goal of AFOR is best practice in human identification and age estimation, and the promotion of forensic odontology through humanitarian activities. For these reasons, I would like to thank the board members of AFOR, Professor Emlata Pandey. She is president-elect. She will become president of AFOR next year in September for 2 years. Professor Ivana Kukovic-Bajic from the University of Zagreb, Dr. Lizla Kanser from the DVI team in Indonesia, Professor Shalini Gupta from India, Dr. Avi Untoro from Indonesia, Professor Abraham Johnson, who is part of your staff at Gujarat University, very active in forensic odontology and research in forensic odontology. We have from the right, Vasim Gupta, from Syria, and we have Jadson Moraes Marques from Brazil, and we also have on the left Dr. Timur Baig, who was involved in the DVI of the one of the unfortunate flight crash in Pakistan a few months ago. And of course, also Professor Niraji Taneja from India, Professor Francesco Lupariello, who is part of our university staff in Turin, and myself. You can follow our activities and you can join also AFOR if you wish, because AFOR is not meant only for forensic odontologists, but is also addressed to all forensics experts who are involved in human identification and age estimation. We have a website, we have a Facebook page, a Twitter profile, an Instagram profile, a LinkedIn page, and also a YouTube channel. We are working, and I'm going to the end of the presentation. We decided to work concretely on some specific goals. So last year, the board, the AFO board, voted unanimously for a vision 2019-2022, which is the promotion of forensic odontology sustainable goals, which are eight goals, which we are achieving in order to promote forensic odontology, best practice in human identification and age estimation. If you go on one of our social media, you will find the list of these 8 forensic odontology sustainable goals. Let me also invite you to our first international symposium, which will be held in Mumbai in the end of September, together with the Indian Association of Forensic Odontology. As president, I would like to thank officially the Indian Association of Forensic Odontology for the partnership that was agreed in this meeting. This conference is we are working on it together with Professor Pandey and all the staff of the AFO board. Having said this, I have finished my presentation. Again, sorry for the delay. If you have any questions, concerns, or proposal, I am here ready to answer.
Thank you. The house is open for questions, please. Anyone for any questions, please?
I think they are writing on the chat. Should I read it, or do you want to read the questions?
I will read it.
Rehan, you can read it. Yeah, Rehan, you can do it.
The first question we have in Google Meet is that, can you please comment on importance of adopting the use of unified dental codes for charting used by the dental professionals around the world, especially in the case when multiple national individuals are involved at the scene of incident or disaster, and the need of training the experts for the same?
Well, this is a very important question. Thank you for addressing it, because this is related to one of the delicate area of the identification process. The identification process relies on the comparison of data. And one of the limits of the dental identification is the availability of dental information, even if we are a resource in the identification, even when no antemortem dental data is available. I would like to stress this. This is the reason why we need to be involved even when even if there are no dental data, because the dental data may be available in the future, or the dental data, even if not available, doesn't impede us to achieve a biological profile for the identification. In terms of the question, one of the issues that we as dentists have to take more attention is the way we collect dental information when we perform dentistry. This is something I stress also when we work in the field of dental malpractice. When we work in dental malpractice, we are aware that in order to protect our work, we need to show that we have worked in a particularly diligent way. This is the reason why, if we, as dentists, as clinical dentists, if we are particularly keen in recording the dental features of our patients, this will allow us a better defense, but this will allow us a better collection of potential antemortem data. For this reason, there are universities like Dundee University in Scotland, but also here in Turin, we are starting to do the same work. of highlighting to dentists the need to record in a very detailed way the dental formula of patients, and also the need to store this information digitally. In our country, for example, in Italy, if we work on dental patients and we have dental x-rays, any kind of dental x-rays, any kind of x-rays, we as doctors are obliged to keep these x-rays for 10 years. So we have the responsibility to supervise the collection and storage of these x-rays. On the other hand, we have to give these x-rays back to patients. Of course, once we will work as dentists, we know exactly how to collect dental data. It's a different issue translating this dental data into a forensic dental data. It would be useful for all dentists, independently for the idea from the will of becoming a forensic odontologist. It would be useful for all dentists to attend forensic dentistry lessons, forensic dentistry programs, because learning some issues related to medical legal responsibilities and forensic issues is useful even if you don't want to become a forensic odontologist, because as you were asking, in order to address your work, in order to work on a more serene way, you need to have some training in forensic odontology and forensic dentistry.
Thank you for the insight. We have next question from Anisha Sinde. She asked, what factor are used while identifying using bite marks?
Sorry, I missed the initial because you were. Can you repeat the initial question?
Sure. What factors are identified using bite marks?
What
factors are identified using bite marks?
So put it other way, what factors can be identified when you have a bite mark as an evidence?
Oh, factor. Sorry. Well, the bite mark questions, which I was not expecting, but I understand it's a very hot topic, requires much more time. What I can say is that bite mark evidence, I can offer my personal position on this, because on bite mark evidence, you will see in the literature right now that there are a lot of contradictions and a lot of different position on the valuable or the admissibility of bite mark evidence in court. I believe that these differences belong to differences in the judicial system. Commonwealth countries have a common law system. Italy, for example, has a civil law system. The judicial system makes evidence, makes the difference in the role that evidence plays in proceedings, in penal proceedings. In my view, dental evidence remain a valuable evidence together with other circumstantial evidence. In my view, bite marks should still be assessed by forensic odontologists in order to assess, first of all, if they are human bite marks or animal, and if they come from the teeth or if they are compatible with other objects. Once we have established that the bite marks that we are assessing are coming from teeth and could be described as a bite mark, then further analysis could be done, but with the purpose of assessing the compatibility of the suspects and not the match, with the criteria of exclusion, not the criteria of matching, because there are no bite marks except few cases, very few and specific cases, There are no cases, generally speaking, where you can obtain a match between a bite mark on a victim and the dentition of a suspect. So no comparison for matching should be done. The comparison should be done in order to exclude possible compatible candidates, possible compatible suspects. So the criteria that should be done, it's the exclusion criteria, and the comparison should always be performed not applying one single suspect, but comparing the bite mark evidence and data among 2, 3 or more suspects. I hope I have replied.
Thank you so much. The next question we have is the one from YouTube from Neha. She's asking, can identification of dental pattern of a human child act as a sole identification method when the related to a large extent?
Okay, I can read it. Yes, the identification process must rely at least on one primary identifier combined with a secondary identifier. This means that we can achieve a positive ID with a combination of dental and fingerprints, or dental and DNA, or DNA and the fingerprints, but also alone with the dental and the secondary identifier. DNA and the secondary identifier, fingerprints and the secondary identifier. Secondary identifiers includes tattoos, personal belongings worn by the victims, scars, all character identifying features, as I showed you, related to the secondary dental identifiers. In other words, we can achieve a positive ID also relying only on dental information, combining this dental data with secondary circumstantial identifiers. If there is no antemortem data, then of course we cannot achieve a positive ID using dental data, because in order to achieve a positive identification on using dental data, you need to have antemortem dental data, of course. If you don't have antemortem dental data, then the dental identifiers, the postmortem dental data, is used in order to narrow the search for possible candidate. Because initially, when we have the human remains, even if we collect DNA, even if we collect fingerprints, we have no clue on who to compare DNA or to compare fingerprints. So initially, the first thing that should be performed is specifically a dental autopsy, because only a dental autopsy allows you to achieve a generic profile of the unidentified person. A generic profile, which means age, sex, geographical origin, socio-economical status, lifestyle. All this information narrows the search for possible candidate. Once we have narrowed through the biological profile, we have to share the biological profile with the police officers in order to search for compatible profiles out of the list of missing people. Once we have found the compatible, then we will go ahead in the search of identifying data. And in this case, if we don't have antemortem dental data, the final confirmation of the identification will be performed comparing DNA.
Sorry, I have a question. May I ask you?
Yes, please.
My name is Monichny Yaroslav. I'm from Republic of Moldova. My question is, can we compare the AM radiogram and the visible features of the teeth of the on the corpse, or we need to do PM radiography on the corpse teeth from comparison?
Thank you for the question. You definitely have to perform X-rays on the human remains. You cannot do a comparison of two different items. You cannot perform pictures. You cannot compare pictures with X-rays. And also, you don't never have to forget that you must perform post-mortem dental radiology in jaws and teeth. You cannot do a dental autopsy without having performed dental X-rays. So I suggest you either have the opportunity of performing a panoramic. If you have a disarticulated skull, for example, then you can take the skull to a dental radiology unit and have a panoramic. It would be better not to move human remains. That's why I strongly advise all forensic odontologists who are involved in the human identification process to have a portable X-ray equipment, because this post-mortem autopsy should be performed only once. One of the human rights violations on human remains is when you need to exhume human remains because initially the post-mortem data collection was not completed involving a forensic odontologist, or was not completed because no dental X-rays were performed. You don't want to risk human remains to be exhumed and to process human remains with dental X-rays, which should have been already performed on the first stage of the assessment. So I strongly advise odontologists or medical examiners' offices, medical legal department, to buy the equipment to be used for post-mortem dental data.
Thank you for answer.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, sir.
Question is coming from someone you are really familiar with.
Johnson wants to know, can you provide some insight on the colorimetric scale for bite analysis which you have developed?
Can you speak on the microphone?
Next question comes from Dr. Abraham Johnson. He wants to know, can you provide some insight on the colorimetric scale for bite mark analysis which you have developed?
Yes, thank you, Abraham. We developed this ruler, which I have it on my desk. This ruler was developed because some years ago I was asked to do an assessment on a bite mark on a victim of abuse, and she said that she was abused by a person who also addressed to her some bites. And the medical examiner wanted to understand, wanted to have a confirmation whether the bite mark lesions that were present on this woman could have been addressed at the same time of the aggression. So I went into the literature to understand if there were some differences in terms of colors of the bruises, in order to have an idea of the timing of the bruises. And I end up that there are some differences, because a bruise, an ecchymosis, has generally 15 days of healing period, and in this period, bruises, ecchymosis, in this healing period of 15 days on white people, we have a changing of colors, and the changing of colors is that you have this purple to blue in the first 2 days, then the change of colors from 5 to 7 days, and then it becomes lighter and lighter in the 7 to 15 days. The purpose of this ruler was to incorporate these colors inside this ruler, allowing a better performance of forensic photographic imaging photographs, because this ruler is meant to be used on a living individual, because on the living individual you have the opportunity of calling the person in your medical legal office in several days, so you can perform pictures on day 1, then another picture of the lesion on day 5 or 6 or 7, and we have done some cases on this, and we have performed pictures on calling back the individual in our office, in medical legal office, which confirmed the healing process and the changing of colors. The changing of colors, which gives an idea, because again, there is a subjective component in the timing of the bruise, which is a subjective component of the observer, depending also on the ability and experience of the observer. So the colors which are in this ruler don't offer a definite assessment of the timing of the bruise. They offer an aid in the interpretation of the timing of the bruise.
Thank you so much, sir. And the last question comes from Darshana Sharma. What are your thoughts on dental autopsy with regards to the humanitarian forensic odontology? Does it justify the dignity and respect to be given to the deceased?
Well, the concept of the dignified management of the dead, it's a concept which goes beyond the forensic aspect. The concept of treating with dignity human remains, it's a concept that goes from the moment of recovery to the moment of where they should rest in peace. So it's a very wide concept, very well addressed and stressed by the International Committee of the Red Cross Forensic Unit, very well presented and described by Dr. Oran Finnegan, of the chair of the forensic unit of the RCRC, and all his staff. In terms of dental autopsy, when we address the human dignity and the human rights of the dead, we are referring to the need of giving a name and an identity to a person, because a person, because a dead person remains a person even when dead. And a dead person without a name, without an identity, unfortunately, doesn't have any rights. Because if you reflect on the rights we have as citizens, independently from the country of your nationality, we have rights because we have a name, we have a surname, and we have a date of birth. If we don't have a name, if we don't have a surname, and if we don't have a date of birth, we don't have any rights. So in order to have rights, we need to have an identity. This is why we stress on the human rights of the dead, and we stress on the need of dental autopsy, simply because dental autopsy is one of the most powerful tools to achieve a positive ID, either because we achieve a positive ID based on a comparison of AM, PM dental data, or because we narrow the search thanks to the generic biological profile. In any case, in all cases, if we want to achieve a positive identification nowadays, especially because we are in a global world, in a globalization, you need to respect the criteria offered by science, and in this case also by Interpol. In order to achieve a positive identification, you need to rely on primary identifiers. You either rely on this or you are not performing any human identification at all. That's why during DVI scenario, DVI process, all teams involved always collect fingerprints, DNA, and dental, because that's the respect of best practice in human identification. This has nothing to do with the availability of antemortem data, because the antemortem data of missing people may be available in years. There are cases where people have been identified after several years. So this means that, on the other hand, once we have processed the human remains, these human remains should be rest in peace, and the coffin should not be reopened, because the idea, ideally, we should never exhume bodies because the post-mortem collection was not completed.
Thank you so much.
Is
Thank you so much
forms?
for the your answer. What an amazing session it was. We really got together a lot of new information and a new insight in the subject. I really thank Professor Emilio for taking out his time and sharing with us his immense knowledge. I would also like to thank our Honorable Director General Dr. J.M. Vyas sir for taking out time and being with us for this session. I would also like to thank all the participants tuned in on all the platforms for attending the session. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you for attending this session, and thank you for the invitation, and see you soon in another forensic meeting or webinar.
Definitely, definitely. So with that, I would like to conclude the session. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in.
Thank you, Professor Emilio. Thank you so much. Thank you for
You are
sparing
very
us.
welcome.
And thank you, Vyas sir. Thank you, our Honorable DG sir, to join the session and yes, taken his valuable time to join the session. Thank you.